every day. As a nation, we could break the silence against violence. Taking a stand with me, Theresa Scott, on WMGJ, Magic 1240 AM, every Wednesday afternoon at 12:30.
Good afternoon. I am your host, Theresa Scott. Welcome to Taking a Stand with Theresa Scott's show. I am so excited, as I am every Wednesday, to come and greet and meet with you and discuss some things that is going to enhance and empower us as a community, as individuals, and as families. I am honored to have Kelly Caldwell, an RN from Amedisys Home Health and Hospice Services here in Gaston, Alabama. I am so proud of her, and I actually could say professionally love her because she's awesome at Doggett Towers and providing excellent services with our residents there and meeting their needs. And I mean, she's there at the beck of a call. But we're going to talk about some things today, discussing the benefits of home health and hospice services that Amedisys provide, as well as how abuse and domestic violence and violence play a role in the services as professionals in our world with the clients that we work with. After Ms. Caldwell speaks, you will have an opportunity to call in or Facebook far as sending questions through. We look forward to your call. We will answer any questions that you may have. Kelly will be honored as well to answer any questions that you may have. That number is 256-549-1240. So you can call from any state. It doesn't matter where you're calling from. You can call in Facebook. You can call in from anywhere. Okay, just put that number 1 in front of there first, or 0, whichever one they require. Okay. Also, moving forward, Kelly, we're going to go into an area that is very important far as when it comes to the safety of a client and going in the home and providing home health services and well as hospice services. Even myself as a counselor, and also the job I do full time is centered around social work. It's very critical in safety, dealing with abuse, dealing with violence, or if we have clients that's dealing with domestic violence. Kelly, would you agree that the violence directed toward healthcare providers is recognized as a significant safety hazard in the healthcare and social service work environment?
I do. With a steady increase through the 26 years that I've been a nurse, I've noticed an increase in the homes that we go to and the different personas that come to a cumulative escalade, really, in the homes now that you didn't face 26 years ago. When
Yes.
you would even a patient in the hospital when you would meet them.
Yes, definitely. I agree. You know, and also according to where I just brought that question from, it came from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, also CDC, National Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, and there's many other agencies that follow underneath that question that I just asked. So, you know, a lot of these questions is based on research and information. No, this is not Theresa's just brilliant questions out of nowhere. You know, again, it takes someone else's suffering or crisis or situation for these questions to come up. And it's sad that they have to come up this way, but this is why we have them show today, right?
Yeah.
Another thing, why don't you go ahead, Kelly, and introduce what you do and what you cover far as a wonderful RN at Amedisys Home Health.
She's entirely too sweet.
I keep on saying that like that
her
because I love it.
She's so precious. I love her.
Thank you.
She's got a heart and a mission that is not just words of the mouth. It's literally from her heart, and she thinks real hard on how she can make a difference, and that's why I love her. I work with Amedisys Home Health and Hospice. My background is in critical cardiac nursing, geriatrics, and then hospice care. I've been with Amedisys for 11 years. Woo, woo. And they are a company that puts the patient's journey ahead. People have a total misconception of what home health and hospice is when we enter the home. And so my job is to be that front force to help our team to coordinate care so that we don't have caregiver exhaustion and people have a positive impact experience from a very difficult illness.
And would you iterate a little bit the difference between the home health and the hospice? Because when people hear hospice, they tend to think about death all the time. And that's a big stereotype and misconception, the same misconception when we talk about domestic violence and abuse. So that's why I'm doing a contrast and compare perspective from this. Go ahead.
Okay, in home health, you're looking at someone getting better. You're looking at someone who maybe has broke a hip, a knee, or maybe they need medication management or psychiatric care even at home. A medicist does have psychiatric nurses for their home health. There's the hope that this person is going to be independent again, or you're managing a chronic illness.
Yeah.
The goal is you may need minimal assistance, but you're still doing a lot of aggressive treatments. You may go for open heart surgery tomorrow. You may be on the line for a heart transplant. You know, you're still doing aggressive things. Those being drastic examples right there.
Yes, I mean, but it's necessary. We're painting a picture here. This is a realistic picture that is happening today, and someone that's listening can relate. So I'm hoping to hear from you through calling in and relating to this.
And in hospice, it's not, every person's journey is different. As a nurse, I've been at the bedside for 10 minutes, which is a nightmare, because that means as a hospice nurse, I've done an admission and discharge and a person's died. I've had patients for 3 years. Just last week, I was taking balloons in a home because he got better on hospice. You know, every person's journey is unique. So I encourage to put aside that fear. If you're having to bathe someone every day and doing all their care for them, then chances are you qualify for more help out there. So let's get on and talk about the other topics, and we'll open up for different conversations.
That's definitely.
I can go on and on because it's my passion.
That's what we do as professionals. We go on. We could talk about this all day because it's so real. But, you know, I can relate to one thing, Kelly. When, you know, I done been by many bedsides where an individual died where I'm holding their hand and I'm supporting. That's a life experience that that you could express to someone, but to actually live it, you know, in the field that we both been working in, to know in hospice. And we're going to kind of go over codependency, and you'll understand a little bit why we're going to talk about just a little bit about codependency and why we're talking about home health and hospice and a form of thinking that leads to where it causes barriers to get better treatment and help. And we could do self-abuse by not taking care of our health as well.
Amen.
As well.
Amen.
Okay, so when we talk about abuse, we're not talking about just balling up fists and fighting. We're talking about abuse in so many different avenues. So this is why it's so important with listening to the radio show. Kelly, would you say exposure to violence on the job, nevertheless, in the homes, can result in multiple outcomes for staff? And how serious is that, not only for the client that we're seeing, because we're in their home environment, but for the staff that's there?
We go through lots of training when we're going into homes. The medicist does lots of modules. When we're going into a home, there can be lots of high emotions. People are nervous about their home environment. Do they think that we're coming in to judge?
Yes.
Which we're not in there to do. We're not in there to judge your living situation, anything about your personal life. We genuinely want to help you. So when we come in, we have to be aware of, if we're looking around, sometimes we go into homes where there's guns on the table and drugs. I've been in a home where a drug deal's going down and I'm assessing and helping mother eat, and comes in and says, "You did not see anything." And I'm like, "Did your mom have a bowel movement today?" "No, I did not see anything," because we want to take care of that patient. But sadly, a lot of these patients are accustomed to this environment and they don't advocate for themselves for us to be able to take care of them. And that goes into, we're going to say it again, I'm pointing out this codependency. That's the reason why I'm saying that. And that's definitely so true. Another thing that occurs that becomes a form of safety, and it deals with abuse and it deals with domestic violence. And let me separate the difference for listeners that's listening for the first time. So when I say abuse, we're thinking about emotionally, mentally, financially, socially, sexually, spiritually, financially, and I'm missing another one. And so this is the areas that we're looking at when it comes to abuse. It's not just about hitting, yelling, and screaming. Now, again, the mental and emotional goes into psychological abuse in these areas, and it goes a little bit more in depth into intimidation and things like that. But when we're saying domestic violence, we're talking about significant other. So that could be a man and a woman, or two men, two women that's in a relationship or marriage. That's when it becomes domestic violence. So if me and Kelly decide to start fighting, which I'm going to lose, because, I'm going to lose. I don't like confrontation.
That's why we don't lose. We don't do that. So, but anyway, it becomes violence at this point. And so this is why we get charged with assault, battery versus domestic violence, because it's not a personal significant relationship. So that's the difference in between. I just want to clarify that. But in the result of going into the homes, for not only your client that you have to worry about, what I'm about to cover, it's also for the staff that's going in there. And we're talking about homicides. If you go in there and your client is dead before you get there, and you don't know that the family member or the significant other has, you got to figure out why this person is dead. They're going to do an autopsy, or if it's any kind of bruises around the neck or any indications that we are trained to look for as
medications missing.
Yes, that's
where they sometimes people have been known to turn up carbon monoxide to do a double homicide or a double suicide homicide.
Yes.
So those are things that are real out there.
And this
I've had experience. And
this goes back into where we're dealing with, again, it could have been a family member. Now we're dealing with, it's not a domestic violent relationship at this point, because it's a family member. It doesn't count as that. So, but anyway, we're looking at homicide. We're looking at where either staff is losing time from work, because now we done been introduced and traumatized to this scenario too. Now, remember, we have to go home too. And a lot of us have families or significant others. We go on, our children, we're going home. And so we need to go home in the right mind, emotionally and mentally as well. And one thing I want to say before I forget, the other thing when you said going into homes and not judging, as professional, our values and beliefs has nothing to do with the job that we're doing. We separate those two when we walk in your door, and we meet you where you at with your values and beliefs.
Right,
now,
exactly.
if they unhealthy, then that's when we start trying to talk and communicate and, help bring insight into what's healthy and unhealthy based on,
help
those.
the person with coping mechanisms.
Right.
It may be the stress and they're not coping healthy for themselves or the patient. So that's what we have social workers and a team to come in and to help in those situations.
And it's usually some form of barriers when it comes to that too.
It is.
So then we're looking at, going into the home, stress and traumatic stress, like I was just telling you, anxiety, fear of violence in the future going into any other client home or resident client. We use different names, but it's the same thing, patient's home. And for staff, it reduced the job satisfaction to where the job performance is not as great as it should be due to violence, either at the job or that we visit in a client's home. And then also depression sets in and anxiety. So all these different things is not only happening with the client, that the client has to be healthy, but also the employee has to be healthy.
Right.
It takes a community member to get all this stuff going on.
Right. It takes a village.
Yes. That's what I meant.
It takes a village. There's a community in the village. It takes all of us.
Yes. Would you also iterate on some measures of safety that they could actually address when going into the home? And let me say this too: this is not only for staff that's going in, family members, friends, visitors, postman, the dog in the neighborhood. It doesn't matter. Well, the dog couldn't assess, but they have enough sense more than we do a lot of times. They know to get out of there.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
But go ahead, Kelly.
It's important when you're going into homes, because you never literally know. When you knock on that door, you never know what's going to be on the other side. So one thing we always do is make sure that someone else knows where we are. If you're going to a home, make sure the office knows your agenda for the day. If I'm going into a neighborhood where I know that has a high crime rate, then I'm going to let the office know where I'm at. If I'm going into a home that maybe home health has had before and they're saying, you need to be careful. They keep guns in the home. There's a lot of temper. They have a history. Then those are things, if you can be aware of, you need to know. But always go in with a defense. You can still be very nice and polite and smile and still be alert for anything that's going on. When you go in, if you see that gun on the table, and that does happen, we go into homes and they'll have a gun on the table, and sometimes people are known to even use it as a threat. If you come in and you tell somebody that, we have such and such in the home, or tell us what to do, then this is my enforcer right here. So
that goes back to not only that they're doing this to the staff, as an indicator. What do you think they're doing to the client?
Right.
Or the other people that's in the home. So this is a, you know, we think about the control, what we call the cycle of abuse, or a sense of control in that environment. And most abusers or perpetrators do implement these characteristics in their behavior. And so you see a lot of these characteristics with other people, or they are hiding from other people.
Right.
With that, Kelly, because we want to give everybody time to call in as well. I just want to indicate what codependency is. I did mention that a little bit earlier with codependency. Codependency is a behavioral condition in a relationship where one person enables another person. And this person can be a person's addiction, poor mental health, immaturity, or irresponsible or unachievements. Okay, so when we start looking at those areas of codependency, we also looking at where an individual has, so if I'm codependent and I have known to be brought up, because there's certain things that indicate that falls into that as well, where we have a lack of trust, where we have wanting control and to control things, or, you know, as far as repressing information. So if you have a client or a patient that you're seeing, or we're seeing, you know, as professionals, and we're going in the home and they have an abuser, do you think most likely if they having trust issues with them that they're going to have trust issues with you? Most likely they will. Yes. Are they going to disclose information with you if they don't feel like they could trust you? You know, so this is why, you know, these areas is important to understand what codependency is. We don't want to enable a person that is violent or abusive to another person by excusing their behavior because they have mental issues or substance abuse. There's no reasoning to it, because at the end of the day, we are accountable and responsible for our actions. But we need to understand what is leading to that core aspect of that. And the other big thing is denial when we start thinking about codependency. Anger, and then relationship problems. Obviously, there's relationship problems going on, and that's, you know, a big indicator. Remember, we talked about the Johari window for those that have heard me speak about that. There's things that we don't know that we don't know. So if we don't know it, but it's things that other people know that we don't know about ourselves. So this is things, again, as professionals going in, we see things that's going on with people that they don't know that's going on with themselves, or that they don't know that we recognize that we know. So, you know, that's very important in that area too.
It's a powerful statement. Powerful statement.
Yes. Any other things you would like to cover at this time, Kelly? Because I want to give people time. We got about 12, 13 minutes where we can have people calling in. Felicia, hi girl. Thank you for listening. Deborah, Sabrina. I'm seeing everybody coming through on Facebook. That's just awesome.
It's hard not to watch her, isn't it? Just the importance of remembering, and to reiterate, as Theresa said, abuse is not just violence or a volatile situation. That goes down to having control over possibly not feeding someone. If you go into a home and they're emaciated, they're obviously malnutrition, then, you know, make sure that's the disease process. Sometimes it's people withholding medications because it's a control issue, or judging whether or not the other person is in pain. So just be aware that abuse takes, as Theresa said, many, many forms.
Home environment, that's another thing. This is where DHR steps in, neglect and abuse. You know, this is where, you know, adult. So now, you know, back in the day, I didn't remember. And I don't have no problem telling people my age, men, women, you know, because, you know, again, I'm 47 years old, okay? And I don't remember when I was younger that they had adult abuse or elderly abuse. It just never, it was always children, pertaining to children. And I'm happy today society had to learn, not happy they had to learn from trial and error, but the trial and error, like I said, them led up to opening this door to protect our elderly and disabled, along with the children.
Amen.
To protect us. So this is where it goes so broad, again, when we're talking about domestic, not only domestic violence, abuse and violence itself. Okay. So again, you could call in when you're ready, and that number, because I still have to work on memorizing numbers. Y'all know, the ones that know me know I'm bad with numbers. 256. Where's that at? Okay, 256-549-1240. So bring them in. Any questions, anyone? Home health questions, hospice questions, pertaining to identifying if someone is being abused, and again, when you call in, you don't have to say your name.
Right.
You just simply asking a question. A question, you will get an answer. How about that? Okay. And meanwhile, I'm acknowledging some other. I see you, Charlotte, girl. All right. I see my daughter at Courtney and Lance, and my granddaughter Zadea. I see Sabar James join. I see Danielle. Let's see who else. Y'all don't get noticed. I'm squinting the ones that see me on Facebook. Let's see Lala, Sabrina, Deborah, Felicia. I see Tamika, looks like. And I'm saying hello and hey. I love all you. I don't know you. I still love you and I appreciate you tuning in. Any questions, Facebook, or you can still call in. Just put that number 1 and dial that number.
And just remember too, we talked a lot about what we go into the homes and look for. Please don't ever be afraid to have an outside agency come into your home to help you care for someone, because we're not in there looking for things. We don't come in with the mindset, what are we going to find wrong in this home? That's actually, even though we're on the defense mechanism, when we go into that home, literally, I can't reiterate enough, as Theresa said, all judgments are aside. We want to help people to cope. As nurses, social workers, therapists, we all go into a job and we are able to clock out. When you're a 24/7 caregiver, you do not get to clock out, and it can be emotionally draining, and people have guilt over that, and you don't have to.
Good afternoon, caller. Who am I speaking? Well, I didn't mean it to accent. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, this is my first time calling. And only the thing I like this show. It was very informational, and I'm glad that I can tell you. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Any other callers like to call in? Let me mention this as well. We could also abuse ourselves. As we, we become older and we realize some of the times that we cannot physically take care of ourselves. And again, in our field, we notice this, professionals that work in the field, you notice too. And we end up assessing a person to see what their needs are. And at some point we go through that denial stage, which is part of the grieving stage of that. I want to keep my independence regardless what's going on, whether I could feed myself, whether I could take care of myself physically. So that's a form of self-harm and self-abuse to yourself. So a lot of times other people do not have to be the one abusing, but we could be abusing ourselves. So keep that in mind. And if you are doing that to yourself, it's something that you need to think about and also seek professional help in that area. Reaching out to home health and hospice is very important. If you don't have insurance, then also find out other ways through like Quality of Life or Family Success Center of other ways of getting help without health insurance to get what you need to meet your need. Even if you're not older, taking care of your health, taking care of your body and your mind is part of your who you are and moving forward and demonstrating to others of self-care, because again, we abuse ourselves as well.
And you don't have to have a doctor's order to reach out for that help. Part of my job is I go into the homes and I do evaluations and talk to patients and their families. And it's not about the list of things that we can provide. It's about what your needs are. And it may be that I come in there and you don't qualify for hospice, but at the same point, like I was in a home 2 weeks ago and food was an issue for them. I mean, they got $13 of food stamps a month. This is an elderly couple. Who can live off $13 in food stamps a month? So we go in and find other resources for them, not just if it's whether we can help, because that goes back to Theresa saying it takes a village. It literally does take a village. I know Teresa's in this profession because she has a genuine care to help people to overcome their problems and to have healthy relationships. And that's the same thing as we are. Medicine has a passion for going in and helping these folks.
Is that why a medicine have you?
I don't know.
I know for a fact. I'm telling you, have you ever just known of someone or around someone? When I call Kelly and I say, Kelly, I have a resident that needs services. She's right there. The other agencies, when they come on the radio show and get to talk, then I'll get to brag about them. So that's my way of getting them on the radio show. But meanwhile, I'm gonna brag about the medicines and their services and what they do, and Kelly that comes out and she loves the residents. She really does. Where I'm at. And I mean, I done seen her squat down and talk. I done seen her reach out and give a hug, appropriate hugs, nothing inappropriate, and just let them know that, they cared about and that she's listening to them, very attentive to what their needs are. I mean, and a lot of you could say that you have been to doctor's office and other places where you did not get that treatment. You was treated the opposite. Again, it's part of your problem if you don't speak up and communicate about it and file complaints about that. But on the other hand, when someone is providing services, it's a really good thing. So
advocate for yourself. That's our job. All nurses, no matter where, social workers, our job is patient advocacy. So be a speaker for yourself. Be honest and forthcoming because we're here to help.
And you could be assertive without being aggressive. That means you could get your point across and be very clear without being attacking someone to say what needs to be said.
Make sure they listen to you, because that goes back to, as Theresa was saying, if you're codependent, you tend to keep quiet. Whatever that person says has got to be the truth. Or if you disagree, you're not going to open your mouth because you're afraid of saying something that's stupid or that's worthless or didn't relate to a situation.
And family values. A lot of people, I noticed said, just learn to keep your mouth shut. And it's times that it's just not healthy, especially when it comes to your health and your well-being and your safety and the safety in the environment and the home. These things, yes, you don't want to be the one sometimes reporting this stuff. It's hard to report this, especially on a loved one or someone that you care about. But again, you don't want something happening to them and you wishing you coulda, shoulda type approach later after everything has happened.
It's about dignity and respect, both for yourself and for patients and families. And that may sound cheesy when it comes out, but there's nothing cheesy about it. It's
you need to put them salty crackers with that salt onto there and get it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Get it going. So, okay. Yes, this has been awesome. Again, if you have any questions or any comments. Oh, Sabrina's asking what's the number again. 256, Sabrina, you got a few minutes, honey. 256, no, 2 minutes. 256-549-1240. Wow, this is awesome. And also too, listen, if you have a topic that you would like to talk about or for us to talk about, or if you would like to be a co-host, if you're here in Gaston, please get in contact with me through my email, convergencecounselingservice.com, or you could call me at 256-478-1182. So that's another way. Because again, and next week, we're going to have a special host on here. It's going to be talking about the perspective of men when it comes to domestic violence and abuse and reporting it or not reporting it, accepting it or not accepting it. So I have a special guest that's going to come on. I'm going to keep it as a surprise because everybody know of them. It's been a good day. Thank you for watching or listening to Taking a Stand with Theresa Scott Show. And I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.